the Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
Financial Survival Network is presented to you by Regal Assets. Buy and sell physical gold and silver through your existing retirement plan, 100% tax-free with Regal Assets. If you want to include physical gold or silver in your existing IRA or old 401k, request your free investment kit, which was recently featured in the Forbes and Smart Money Wall Street Journal magazines. Call toll-free 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620, or visit regalassets.com. Today's sponsor is Audible.com. They're a leading provider of spoken audio information and entertainment. Listen to their audiobooks whenever and wherever you want. You know, I do a lot of driving. I'm always listening to an audiobook, and I love it. I couldn't live without Audible. If interested, go to audiblepodcast.com/Lutz. audiblepodcast.com/Lutz. You're listening to the FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. I'm Kerry Lutz on 1590 WPSL. So you've seen the price of gold and silver get slammed. Now it's bouncing back. But what's really happening in the physical arena? Can you buy the metal? That's what really matters to you. And if you're selling it, how much would you get paid for it? Bill Holter just got back from Europe, got some interesting insight to shed on there. Welcome back, Bill.
Good morning, Kerry. How are you?
Great. So you were in Europe last week, and you talked to a number of bankers and dealers. What is the physical demand picture in Europe?
Well, just like everywhere else, their demand for both metals have doubled. Gold is getting tight, and silver is almost impossible to be had. And there's long waits. Like here in the States, just shop around, go to the big coin dealers, and you'll find the premiums have exploded. The wait to receive your metal is now anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks out. Junk silver has evaporated. You can't find a full bag, and if you do, you're going to be looking at anywhere $6, $7, $8 premium over spot. So did your silver really go down in price? No, the premium went up by just as much as Comex slammed the price.
Hey, this reminds me of the thing where somebody would say to me when I was a lawyer, what's your hourly rate? And I would say to them, well, how much do you want to pay for the job? And then I'll tell you what my hourly rate is, because it's irrelevant what the metal price is until you add in the premium, what you can actually buy it for. And the fact that you can't buy it is pretty indicative. I mean, I'm looking here at eBay. Where is it? There was a real interesting one, because now they don't even sell it in denomination. They sell it in ounces. 480 ounces of total U.S. silver junk pre-65 coins. They're trying to get $9,500 for it, which is actually pretty cheap, but I think they're not looking at the total silver value in that one. You know, you really can't find the stuff is what it comes down to.
As far as trying to find a bag, bags have evaporated. You can buy partial bags. You can buy, I've seen 10th bags, quarter bags, half bags. I haven't seen many half bags. You can go to your local coin dealer and maybe find some scraps still around. But as far as ordering and getting a bag, shop the internet. You won't find any. They're gone.
Yep, they are gone.
And that's also a function of they're not making anymore. So, I mean, I'm surprised that that bags lasted as long as they have, but they are now gone.
Yep. Well, you know, I always look at First Majestic's silver store. So right now their bullion price is $27 an ounce, and you can buy a few hundred rounds there at the most. They just aren't going to let you buy any more than that.
Yeah, and Kerry, that's over a 10% premium over what Comex says silver's
Yeah.
worth.
I know, and sometimes you can get them at the shows, and they'll sell it to you at spot or very close to it, 50 cents over spot. The last time I saw them at a show.
Yeah, but how much
yeah,
can you buy?
yeah,
I mean, who cares if you can buy $1,000?
yeah, you're not going to be able to buy enough. Is the point? It's
Right.
just not out there. So I just use them as a benchmark because they're actually, they're there. So I just use them as a benchmark because they're rounds, the same rounds all the time,
Right.
and they generally are, they're a producer, which is why I like to follow them. That's the
Right.
only reason. A producer that actually does retail. So if you're out there looking to buy now, Bill, what do you do? What do you buy now at this point? What do you get the best deal on?
Well, back to that, I think it's interesting when we're talking about size. There's no way for size to get into the silver market. I had written a piece probably, 2 years ago that, in my opinion, $2 or $3 billion is all you needed to blow up the whole silver market, to clean the streets globally. And I think that was never done for, I guess you could call it, for appearance sake. Who wants to be the guy who blew up the world? Because think about it. There are now, there's got to be 1,000 people, well, probably well more than 1,000 people that could literally blow up the silver market, put in a $2 billion order, and do it with physical, buy options, buy contracts, have them all fully backed with cash, and then ask for delivery. It's game over.
Right. And whose interest is it to sink the market? Is it in any big player's interest? Are there enemies of the U.S. out there that would want to do it? Because once you blow up that market, all the other markets are going to follow, right, Bill?
Everything else goes, yeah. Because it proves that market is a fraud. And then the question becomes, which other markets are frauds?
Exactly. And basically all of them, which is what Matt
Right.
Taibbi just came to this amazing, startling revelation that every market is rigged. And you, me, and Andy have been talking about this, me and Andy, for 2 years already,
Right.
that there is no market that really serves its function, its core function, which is price discovery, to transmit information about supply and demand to the market participants. Doesn't exist anymore.
Well, Chris Powell came out and said that, I think it was back in 2007 or 2008, 5 or 6 years ago. He said there are no markets. There are only manipulations.
Yeah, only interventions.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and you could get kind of cynical about things, but it's the truth, because the markets are, whether it's the stock market, as Andy likes to call it, the Dow Jones propaganda average, go down. Comex, whether it's the bond market, the money market, whatever it is, any market you can point at is being rigged at some level or another. Oil might be a little harder, but currency markets, they're all being rigged by the central banks.
Oil's been rigged for 40, 50 years. Go back to the petrodollar.
You could argue that
Go
it's
back to
always been rigged.
The 1980s, when the oil market was tanked basically to blow up Russia.
Yeah.
It blew up their financial system and
Mm-hmm.
took the Soviet Union, to pieces.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
markets have been rigged. Go back to the 1920s and 30s. Markets were rigged. It's nothing new, but it is amazing that so few people believed it and are now coming to that realization. And the people like us that everyone looked at and pointed at and laughed, saying, "Look at the tinfoil hat on those guys." We were right.
Yeah. Yep, we were right. That is
And
the
it's
fact.
becoming, I mean, it's now obvious. There's not even a question of it.
Yeah. Yeah, if even the mainstream, they're going to be the last to figure it out. Just like the cheated on wife, the mainstream media will be the last to come to the obvious conclusion that it's rigged.
Or you might say they'll be the last to admit the truth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're just in denial. That's all. Just in denial. I want to welcome our new sponsor, Audible. I've been listening to audiobooks from them for over 5 years now. I am a huge Audible fan. In fact, I've bought multiple platinum memberships. Platinum membership, you buy 25 audiobooks at a time. I just got done listening to the first 3 or 4 books of the Jack Reacher series, the one you probably saw or maybe you didn't, in the theater, Tom Cruise movie. I mean, just a wonderful book, wonderful series, expertly narrated, and so many times I'm in the car, I get sick of listening to music or news or the radio. I just put my iPod on, plays the book, and makes that trip go by so quickly. To me, this is one of the great things of the information revolution of the internet, is that you can get over 100,000 books on your iPad or iPod or iPhone instantly. Another thing that they have is courses on Audible, the Modern Scholar series. And I've listened to lectures about World War I, Shakespeare, nanotechnology, detective novels. It's so enlightening. To me, Audible is a must-have killer app for the iPhone, the iPad, for my computer, wherever I am. I'm always downloading these books. Like I say, they're a sponsor, so check them out. They've got a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial membership. Just sign up at www.audiblepodcast.com/Lutz, L-U-T-Z. Again, audiblepodcast.com/Lutz. Sign up today. Like I say, this to me is a dream sponsor. These are exactly the types of things that I like to pass on to you because I'm such a fanatical, over-the-top Audible user. 5-6 years I've been listening, hundreds of books. I used to think I was a well-read person, and it's a little strange when somebody asks you, did you read that book? And you have to say, well, yeah, well, somebody actually read it to me, but they actually did a better job than I could have, so I don't mind it. But my friend Sean Perger up in Vancouver, he listens to almost as many as I do, and he can't get enough. I know you're going to love this company, love their service. I do. So check them out. audiblepodcast.com/Lutz. And that's the nature of the whole thing. And really the only question now, Bill, and you and I agree on it, that we're not really in a position to tell you when, is when does it all blow up? Because it's certainly headed that way, isn't it?
Well, it's obvious. I mean, all you have to do is look at $1.4 quadrillion worth of derivatives. How does that settle? How does that get paid?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's multiples of the real assets on Earth, which these derivatives supposedly represent.
Good question. How does it get paid? Or will, when push comes to shove, they just say, oh, sorry, no money for you. We don't have anything.
Probably two ways.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, sorry, no money for you. And you'll see all kinds of defaults, and you'll see Cyprus all over the world where they go into the bank accounts and, you had $100,000 and then the next day you have $7,000. And then in order to back the remaining $7,000, they're going to have to come up with some type of currency somewhere that is gold-backed, and gold is going to have to be marked up multiples of what it is. I mean, I used to think that the number was they'd have to mark it up tenfold. I don't think tenfold would even put a dent in what's outstanding.
Well, what they could do is kind of like when they do a reverse split of stock on Wall Street, where your 100 shares are now 10 shares.
Right.
And that's what they'll do with the dollar and every other currency is your $100,000 is now $1,000, or it's your $1 million is now $1,000, and they'll cut it off by 1,000th because you're going to have this massive deflation that takes place when things are valued again in gold anyway,
Right.
and you'll be buying a house for 10 ounces of gold or 20, right?
Well, they're going to have to do it both ways. They're going to have to do the reverse split. Just go back a couple of years ago when Jeff Christian in front of the CFTC was saying that it's 100 to 1 leverage. There's 100 paper ounces outstanding for every 1 real ounce. So let's just use that number of 100, and it very well may be higher, but let's use his number. I mean, he's an insider that knows and inadvertently spilled the beans.
Yeah.
You'd have to have a 10 for 1 reverse split, so your 100,000 is now 10,000, but you'd also have to have, in order to back a new currency, you'd have to have a 10-fold increase in the value of gold.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas right now gold's, you just use round numbers, $1,500 and you got a $100,000 bank account, after the reset, you'll see $10,000 bank accounts and $15,000 gold.
Right.
So what was 1.5% is now 150%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of remarkable. You know how we just aren't used to this type of thing, and
Not in the U.S.
yeah. Well, for looking at it from a purely parochial standpoint, you know, we're certainly not prepared for such an occurrence in the U.S., but the Western world really isn't either.
No.
So really that gets back to buy whatever you can now, because you're just not going to be able to buy anything later because everything is going to be reset. And that's one area where I do agree with Jim Sinclair, is that they're going to revalue gold as well as reverse splitting the currency to take everything out of this death spiral that it's in.
Right.
But the thing is, once everything's revalued in gold, it's going to be very difficult for countries to ever issue debt for the next 10, 20 years. For the U.S., for all the debtor nations, there's not going to be a market for their debt, and they're not going to be able to run deficits. Once you can't run a deficit, there's no government debt, right?
Right, and the standard of living just drops incredibly.
But it was a fake standard of living in the first place because
That's
you were
correct.
living on debt.
Right, that's absolutely correct.
You know,
For every year that we lived over and above our standard of living, we're going to need at least that same amount of time living that far below our standard of living to get back to an equilibrium.
Yeah.
To pay it back, so to speak.
Well, it's never really going to be paid back, though, is it?
No,
So-
it'll be. It's from a financial standpoint, it gets defaulted on, whether it's outright default or devaluations of the currencies.
Mhm.
You know, it's one or the other or both. Probably both.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're definitely seeing danger signs ahead. Looks like even with the markets being rigged, the stock market's getting ready to peak, and you know, in the fall of in the face of massive demand, or I should say supply, the stock market, even with the manipulations, is going to take a hit in all likelihood, isn't it?
Yeah, it will. And you asked when. I have no idea. I would suspect it's not too far out. What will be the cause? My guess is probably some country in Europe.
Or countries,
probably gonna
or
see
combination.
Yeah, you're probably going to see another Cyprus. And investors were basically put on notice with Cyprus. You get another country, Spain, Italy, Portugal, Ireland, whatever, that runs into trouble, you're going to see bank runs.
Mhm.
Not so much people standing in line, but you're going to see electronic bank runs.
Yeah.
And then you'll see the new template, the bail-ins, where they go in and take deposit or money. And, if you think what's happened in the physical metals market, as far as it becoming very difficult to find and evaporating, if you think that what's happened since Cyprus is scary, just imagine when a bigger country where it happens, and for the second time.
Yeah.
The
Well,
writing will be on the wall. It'll spread globally.
yep, no doubt. It'll happen so quickly that you're just going to be blown away. Anyway, we got to run, but Bill, it's always a pleasure, and thanks for the info on what's really happening in Europe. I mean, you hear the rumors, the anecdotal evidence from people, but I haven't talked to anybody who's been in Europe recently who actually had a handle on the demand side there and the supply.
Over. It's not just Europe. It is all over. There are shortages in China. There are shortages in India. There are shortages everywhere.
Yeah.
It's hard to find metal.
And you know why that is? Because you're waking up. You out there understand, finally, more of you understand, and more of you wake up every single day to the fact that the system's bankrupt, it's a fraud, it's fixed, it's designed to steal your wealth, and unless you do something about it, you're going to wind up broke. Right? Right, Bill? Isn't that what it comes down to?
You'll wind up without wealth.
That's for sure. So people want to find your writing, Bill. How do they sign up for your newsletter?
You can go to Miles Franklin website at milesfranklin.com. You'll see my name. Click on it, and all my articles are archived.
All right, great. Hey, in a couple of weeks, I'll have you and Andy on a roundtable. Let's talk about this more, because this is an emerging trend that, of course, the mainstream media is telling you nothing about. They're keeping you in the dark. They're keeping you ignorant. They're keeping you the way they like you, which is fat, dumb, and happy. Keep eating the Big Macs, the Whoppers. Keep downing those soft drinks, double gulps preferably, anything to piss off Mayor Nanny Bloomberg. And, go have a six-pack of beer when you get home and don't think about it. That's the way they like you, the sheeple, but you are waking up and you let them know in no uncertain terms the cost of this epic fail that's coming up. Bill, it's always a pleasure. We'll talk to you and Andy in a couple of weeks. Actually, I'm talking to Andy in a couple of hours. And thanks as always.
All right. Thank you, Kerry. Have a good day.
All right. I keep hearing that many people believe that the best investments are sold by large investment houses. But how many people do you know who got rich in the stock market? I thought so. Jason Hartman has helped thousands of create real wealth with real estate. He has over 20 years experience, and his company provides the complete solution for real estate investors. Isn't it time you acquired property in diverse, growing markets nationwide for as little as $15,000 down? Don't let inflation destroy the value of your savings, stocks, or bonds. Real estate is the one investment that allows you to profit from inflation. For cash flow and capital appreciation, there's nothing else like it. Make your money work as hard as you do by building an income property empire. Go to www.jasonhartman.com and tell him Kerry sent you.